Yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid, language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. And now there's no one to champion or defend either of them because you, with your aggressively anti-common sense agenda and exclusionary attitude, blew it. You lost everything. House, Senate, White House, Supreme Court, and left us completely unprotected and ready to be violated. Democrats have become like a royal family that, because of so much incest, has unfortunately had children who are retarded. And the same thing can happen to ideas if they are also conceived in an atmosphere of intellectual incest. Maybe take the clothespins off your noses and actually converse with the other half of the country.
Bill Maher has gone after AOC and the Democrats once again, and this time it's the last thing anyone expected. According to Maher, AOC and several high-profile Democrats have been avoiding tough interviews, which is understandable because nobody wants to get caught off guard. But avoiding Bill Maher is a completely different story. The Democrats have offered their reasons, yet Maher calls those excuses completely pathetic. So, what reasons did they actually give, and how does Maher respond? Hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right in. Here's a clip of Maher calling out AOC and the Democrats.
Look, I would love to have AOC on the show, and Mamdani and Elizabeth Warren, but I can't subpoena the guests. And I can't fix that what the Democrats are scared of more than anything else, I mean, obviously besides gluten, is being primaried from the far left, even though most Democrats are not far left. They're mild-mannered and moderate, at least at my bathhouse.
Maher says he's personally invited AOC, Zohran Mamdani, and Elizabeth Warren, three of the biggest voices on the far left, to appear on his show. But so far all three seem to have turned him down. And honestly, it's not difficult to understand why. Maher has built a reputation for asking sharp, unscripted questions that leave very little room for spin or prepared talking points. For politicians who are used to friendlier interviews, that's a risky situation. It's much easier to appear on shows where the questions are predictable, the follow-ups are gentle, and every answer can be prepared ahead of time. Going on Maher's show means stepping into unpredictable territory where one bad moment can instantly go viral for all the wrong reasons. So instead of taking that risk, AOC, Mamdani, and Warren appear to be avoiding it, choosing safer platforms over the unpredictable, no-holds-barred format that has made Maher's show must-watch television for years.
Every month I see a new poll reporting how much Latinos despise the woke term Latinx. It's about as popular with them as a reboot of Speedy Gonzales. Even the country's oldest Latino civil rights group came out against it, yet AOC keeps defending it, saying gender is fluid. Language is fluid. Yes, and Latino voters are fluid. And more of them now than ever are identifying as Republican. So are Asian Americans, whose support for Democrats is down 16 points since the last election.
Critics argue that maybe the real reason AOC, in particular, has avoided Maher's invitation because he would almost certainly press her about her past use of the term Latinx. It's a term many Latino voters and commentators have rejected again and again, making it clear they don't want to use to describe them. Yet AOC continued using it anyway, seemingly unfazed by the criticism. Most major news outlets have given her a pass, rarely asking her to explain or defend the term on camera. But Maher doesn't work that way. He's never been someone who avoids difficult questions just to keep an interview comfortable. And he certainly isn't going to start now. Sitting across from AOC, he would almost certainly ask why she believes Latinx represents a community that so many Latino voters and commentators have rejected. That's a question she may simply prefer not to answer, especially on live television and especially with Bill Maher.
AOC says so many people in this country hate women. Oh, geez. Even the guy at the party who pulls out a guitar is like, way to ruin the fun. Congressman Jamal Bowman says capitalism is slavery by another name. No, it's not. It's the thing that has given more people more prosperity and hope than any other system, flawed though it surely is.
Another reason AOC and many Democrats continue avoiding Maher's show is that, in Maher's view, they simply aren't ready to face reality. Maher argues that voters didn't reject Kamala Harris because she was a woman. They rejected the political image she became associated with, especially woke culture. Instead of pushing back against its more extreme ideas, she remained silent and never clearly distanced herself from them. His argument is that voters didn't want a president shaped by that ideology, and they made that clear at the ballot box. AOC, however, appears to see it differently. She seems to believe Harris lost because she was labeled woke, as if the label itself was the problem rather than the ideas behind it. That disconnect is exactly the kind of issue Maher would challenge her on directly, forcing a conversation many Democrats would rather avoid, especially on his show.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to bullshit. The Democratic polling firm Blueprint told Democrats months ago that black voters, aka their supposedly liberal base, were more likely to find the president too liberal than too conservative. They also found that voters didn't just want Harris to distance herself from Biden, they wanted her to distance herself from what they believe the entire Democratic Party has become, a Portlandia sketch.
Maher also calls out Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party together, pointing to what he sees as one major failure. Harris couldn't bring herself to distance herself from either the far left or President Biden, even as many voters expected her to do exactly that. Some Democrats had already grown frustrated with Biden's direction, and critics argue Harris never created enough separation from his agenda. Instead, when she was asked what she would do differently from Biden, she famously replied that nothing came to mind. For Maher, that moment represented something much bigger. A party so unwilling to question itself or make changes that it had become almost like a comedy show, unable to seriously defend its own record. And that's exactly why, he argues, many Democrats now feel trapped inside a party whose direction they privately question but publicly refuse to challenge.
And now one idea that's getting a lot of attention is the Dems need to find their Joe Rogan, a liberal Joe Rogan, because that's why Kamala lost. Republicans have a podcast. Okay, maybe. Or you could consider this. Instead of conjuring up a new Joe Rogan, ask yourself why you lost the old one. Because he used to be on your side. He smokes pot on the air. I don't think he's that much of a far-right ideologue.
Maher criticizes Democrats for steadily losing influential figures who once leaned left, pointing to Joe Rogan as the clearest example. Rogan didn't suddenly become conservative. According to Maher, the Democratic Party changed around him, moving so far to the left that it no longer resembled the party many longtime liberals once supported. Rather than growing naturally, Maher argues the party abandoned the common-sense liberalism that used to define it and replaced it with positions many longtime supporters found difficult to relate to or defend. His message is simple. Return to the earlier version of liberalism, one built on open debate, free thinking, and practical solutions instead of ideological purity tests. If Democrats can find their way back to that approach, Maher believes they may have a real chance of winning back voices like Joe Rogan and many other voters who now feel politically disconnected.
And the same thing can happen to ideas if they are also conceived in an atmosphere of intellectual incest. Maybe take the clothespins off your noses and actually converse with the other half of the country. Stop screaming at people to get with the program and instead make a program worth getting with.
Maher explains that the Democratic Party is falling apart because it has effectively written off half the country simply because those voters supported Donald Trump. Instead of trying to understand why so many Americans made that choice, the party dismissed them completely, treating their votes as something shameful rather than something worth examining. As a result, Maher argues Democrats now operate inside an echo chamber surrounded only by people who already agree with them. In his view, that isolation is hurting the party rather than helping it. Without hearing different opinions, there is no challenge, no fresh thinking, and no real growth. He believes the reason Democrats continue repeating the same failed strategies is because they refuse to engage with people outside their political bubble. Real new ideas rarely come from constant agreement. They come from honest conversations with people who see the world differently. And Maher believes Democrats have stopped having those conversations.
I will conclude by saying the reason I'm so mad at the Democrats is because as a voter, the issues that were important to me were democracy and the environment. And now, there's no one to champion or defend either of them because you, with your aggressively anti-common sense agenda and shitty exclusionary attitude, blew it. You lost everything. House, Senate, White House, Supreme Court, and left us completely unprotected.
Maher believes the Democratic Party's sharp move toward the far left has left him politically homeless and without a party that truly represents him. He quickly points out that he isn't the only one who feels that way. Many former Democratic supporters now believe neither party fully reflects their values. Maher goes even further, arguing that if Kamala Harris had won the presidency, the same confusion and dysfunction he sees inside the Democratic Party could have followed her into the White House. In his view, too much attention would have been spent on cultural issues instead of solving everyday problems. He points to the Democratic National Committee as an example, describing it as divided, directionless, and struggling to fix its own problems. Maher believes that same confusion could have spread across the country had Harris become president.
Alyssa Slotkin calls her party weak and woke. She's right. People vote on instinct. They can smell fear a swing state away, and they'd rather have strong and wrong.
Maher doesn't hold back, calling his own party weak and overly focused on woke politics because, in his view, it lacks the courage to challenge the far left or take back control of its own direction. Instead of setting clear limits, Democrats have allowed far-left voices to shape the party's messaging, policies, and priorities, often pushing aside more moderate positions that appeal to a wider audience. Maher argues this lack of strength carries serious political consequences because many voters simply don't trust a party that seems afraid to stand firmly for anything. In his opinion, people naturally prefer strength, even when it's imperfect, over weakness presented as virtue. Given that choice, he believes many voters would rather support someone who is strong and occasionally wrong than someone who constantly changes positions to satisfy an ideological fringe. For Maher, that explains much of today's political landscape and serves as another warning Democrats continue to ignore.
It sounds a lot like what Obama said after he left office. The average American doesn't think we have to completely tear down the system and remake it. They just don't want to see crazy stuff. Is this really so hard a message for Democrats to say?
Throughout this discussion, Maher paints a picture of a Democratic Party facing serious problems, one that he believes has lost touch with everyday Americans by retreating into an ideological bubble. From AOC potentially facing difficult questions about links to Kamala Harris's struggle, in Maher's view, to distance herself from President Biden and defend her own record. He sees a clear pattern of avoiding accountability instead of confronting it. Maher argues the party's shift toward the far left has pushed away former allies like Joe Rogan, left moderates like himself politically homeless, and weakened Democrats' ability to connect with voters who simply want leadership confidence and clear answers instead of hesitation. For Maher, the Democratic Party's current struggles are not an accident. They are the result of refusing self-reflection and shutting down disagreement within its own ranks. His message is simple and direct. Until Democrats are willing to challenge the far left and return to practical common-sense liberalism, they will continue losing support, credibility, and the voters they need most. And with that, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.